Has found rampant animal mistreatment at the City of Lufkin's animal shelter. The 153-page report highlights the shelter's major problems and the areas in need of improvement. This includes how kennels are cleaned, the vetting of stray and surrendered animals, feedings, and also a use of the shelter space. KLTV7's Avery Gorman has more tonight on how city and shelter leaders plan to address these problems.
The City of Lufkin hired an outside consultant who has over 15 years of experience in animal services consulting to complete a review of the animal shelter's policies and procedures. The consultant, Susan Feingold, conducted a 3-day on-site visit in February. That visit resulted in a report released in late April. According to the report, there are several lapses in the way animals at Kurth Memorial Animal Shelter were treated.
I don't feel like anything there was ever any type of inhumane treatment of animals here, or that's been proven brought to my attention. I feel like if anything, we were very much dated in our approach to this service.
Mayor Mark Hicks says cleaning kennels was an area that needed improvement. Kennels were not being cleaned properly or with disinfectant that was killing viruses. They were also mixing solutions that caused a strong odor and could be harmful to the animals.
They weren't the best chemicals or the best solutions that were needed to most effectively sanitize. We had an issue with a distemper outbreak. Parvo is an ongoing issue here.
Kennels are now only being cleaned with a solution called rescue. Improper cleaning protocols and techniques have to be performed by staff. Another issue was only half of the kennels were being used for cleaning reasons. During the study, 14 dog kennels at the shelter were unoccupied. Not using those kennels resulted in fewer animals being taken in. Interim Animal Shelter Director Morgan Williams says that was done to make sure cleaning was easier on staff. They will now place more kennels outside for the dogs to be moved into while cleaning.
We just got 10 by 10 cages for the back for dogs to get moved into while we're cleaning, so we can start using all of the rows that are in the adoption building.
This allows them to take in about 20 more dogs. Animals were also being kept outside, and the report states that they were susceptible to freezing temperatures. These open kennels will allow all dogs to be kept inside. The report also scrutinized the shelter's feeding method, saying it was inadequate. All dogs and cats, no matter their size, breed, or being underweight, were only fed once a day. UC Davis Quaritch Shelter Medicine Program states underweight animals, puppies, and kittens are supposed to be fed 3 times a day in small increments.
We understood in many of our processes there were things that we needed to update. One is in the approach for how we feed the animals.
Williams says all animals at the shelter are now being fed under regular feeding standards. The report also noted vaccinations were also not done on intake, which can lead to disease and outbreaks. Vetting also wasn't done unless an animal was severely sick, and even then, not until 3 days after initial intake. Vaccines are now given upon intake, and any animal that seems sick, no matter the severity, they are taken to a contracted veterinarian. Avery Gorman, KLTV7 News.
Now, to read the entire 153-page report for yourself, scan the code on your screen or go to kltv.com, click on the big red box under today's date right there. You'll find a link to that report in full.